Hey guys, this is Yoda, and I'm going to show you a trick that people have been using on the last boss of Black or Cold to make it a lot easier. So normally what happens is you get to the last boss, you finally somehow complete phase 1, you're like, oh phew, finally. And then the last boss spawns, and he's like, alright, now I'm going to cast Shadow Volley and do more than your max health in one hit, and everyone dies. Alright, so how do we counterplay this? So there is actually a cheese. So see how he's going to cast Shadow Volley 12 seconds in after he transforms, and we're getting a buff in 19 seconds. So the trick is to delay the Shadow Volley so that we get the buff after the Shadow Volley casts. So this trick is abusing a bug, in my opinion. And that is that if you Shadow Meld or Vanish or whatever, drop combat, while he's targeting you with Shadow Volley, then he'll cancel the cast. So in my opinion, that's a bug because like Shadow Volley is like an AoE cast, so he shouldn't cancel it if his target Shadow Melds. But yeah, so this is going to be the easy version. It's a lot easier if your tank has Shadow Meld. So, you know, VDH, Guardian, etc. Blood Decay. Can all go Night Elf, and they can do the Shadow Meld tech. So we're going to play the VOD here. So he's going to cast Shadow Volley target at me. Notice I bring him to the side. That's because when the person taunts mid-cast, he can potentially melee, and it's better to just stay out of range. So I bring him to the side so the other person can stand all the way across the room. And they will need to taunt. Okay, so he's going to cast Shadow Volley targeting me. Boom. Okay, so at this point, the other person can taunt, or he's going to taunt halfway through the cast, right here. So he's casting, this Shadow Volley is targeting me, but the other person taunted, all right? So at the end of this cast, I'm going to meld, and since the volley is targeting me, it'll cancel the cast. Then after the volley, he'll say, oh no, my cast got canceled. I have to cast it again. And he's going to cast it targeting someone else because that person taunted mid-cast, right? Mid-cast just now. So the sequence is he casts Shadow Volley targeting me. Then the other person taunts at half cast. After they taunt, it's very important. After they taunt, I Shadow Meld. I'm going to Shadow Meld late. Then it casts it targeting Sarpera. And then she's going to meld at the end of the cast. And boom, we've delayed it long enough. You can see Shadow Volley is resolving in 2 seconds. And we have a buff ink in 1 second. So 2 melds, as long as you play it like somewhat like towards the end of the cast with your Shadow Meld, it'll work out. And this is the easy version note. So this Shadow, we're going to get the buff. Boom, we got the buff. Basically, like the lore is that this demon has been terrorizing his family, and then he finally realizes that he's been betrayed, and he says, okay, the strength of my ancestors is yours, champions. Notice how we all have insane max health now compared to before. So now we have the buff. Shadow Volley goes off in 1 second, and instead of one-shotting everyone, we just don't push any buttons, and it like barely doesn't even bring us to half. All right, so that is the easy version. Next, we're going to go over the hard version, which is if your tank doesn't have Shadow Meld. So this is, you know, my normal group with my paladin. We have it. However, we do have 2 characters. This requires 2 or at least 1 other character with taunt and Shadow Meld, and preferably another character with taunt and Shadow Meld, but just Shadow Meld can work. Okay, so this is the hard version. Basically, I'm going to bring him to the edge again. The way this is going to work is that the Havoc is going to taunt before he casts Shadow Meld Volley, so that he starts to cast the first one targeting the Havoc. And then the Druid is going to taunt halfway through that cast, and then the Havoc melds, and then he casts a target on the Druid, and the Druid melds. So it's pretty much the same as the last one, except, you know, the person with the first Shadow Meld Volley is not the tank. He has to taunt before it goes off. And it's kind of important that I bring him to the side here. It's way more important than last time, because now the Havoc has to taunt, like, not in the middle of a cast. He has to taunt before the cast starts. Notice how he's taunted. Cast has not started yet. It's happening in 1 second. This is the timing. So he taunts. Boom, boss walks like halfway across the room. If he taunted any like earlier, the boss would like walked over and smacked it before he cast, and the whole would have been ruined, right? So he taunts the boss casts Shadow Volley, and then it's the same situation as before, right? He's gonna wait for the Druid to taunt. Druid taunts halfway through. After Druid taunts, he can meld. Then it casts a targeting Druid. Druid melds. This can also happen. The boss will sometimes get confused and cast Stinging Storm instead of Shadow Bolt Volley. This like obviously also works because you'll still have the buff for Shadow Bolt Volley. Just like don't get confused if the queuing's weird. We have a buff incoming. We get the buff. He casts Stinging Storm, and then he casts Shadow Bolt Volley. Boom. Doesn't even have more than half our health. So yeah, that's the trick. That's the easy version and the hard version. So if you're having trouble with a high tyrannical black or cold, hopefully this helps you out. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to catch me on Twitch if you have any questions, and peace out.